One common problem in multi-pitch climbing is beginning to rappel down cliff, getting a good ways down, and then noticing that the ends of your rope don't actually reach the anchor that you thought it would reach. There's a couple different ways to solve this problem, but one solution is to reascend your rope. In this video, I'm going to show how to do that. So pay special attention to the way the rappel is set up, because if you set it up in a different way than this, without an extension, for example, you may not be able to perform this technique. Let's take a look.
Here I'm setting up my rappel. You'll notice I'm using an extension, in this case a 120 centimeter round runner with an overhand-on-a-bite. I'm backing the rappel up like I usually do using an auto block that will go on the brake strand underneath my rappel device. I then check to make sure it's functioning and pull up to introduce some slack into the system that allows me to attach my rappel device. Here I'm using an ATC guide. Checked. It's set up correctly. I always check my system before unattaching myself from the anchor to ensure that it's working. I clip my tether back to my belay loop, release my friction hitch, and then rappel down. As I get closer, I look down, and in this case I notice that the ends of my rope did not reach the next rappel anchor. So I'm going to need to reascend. I use a locking carabiner and I put it through the ear, sometimes also called the eye, of my ATC guide. And I'm going to lock that off into my belay loop. Stand up on the terrain, flip it through my belay loop, and lock it down. You'll notice that I use the tension rope above as a handhold to do that. I check to make sure the system is set up properly, and now I can remove my backup auto belay, my backup auto block. Here you can see the way that the device has been flipped. If I had any concerns about this, I could also put a backup knot in the rope. Next, I take that auto block and I put it above my ATC guide. This is going to be where I attach my foot loop. My foot loop in this case is a 120 centimeter or double length nylon sling. If I didn't have this, I could also use two single length slings, two 60 centimeter runners, which would be girth hitched together. To keep the tow bar out of the system, I'm using a clove hitch just to isolate it. It's not necessary, but I find it makes things a little easier. For me, I'm about 5'9", between 5'9" and 5'10", and using an auto block plus a 120 centimeter runner is about right for my foot loop. If you're taller, you might need something a bit longer than this. Now I slide my foot loop up. I grab the two brake strands that were coming out the bottom of my ATC. I pull up on them in order to ascend the rope. As I ascend, I have the option of tying an overhand-on-a-bite in both strands of rope that come out the bottom of my ATC. I then clip these in using a locking carabiner. In other systems, I sometimes use a clove hitch for this purpose, but I find that it's a little awkward to do that because the clove hitch is difficult to adjust with two strands through it. There are positives and negatives to backing the system up. The negative is it's a little bit more cumbersome. Okay, so now I've reached the top point where maybe I have solved the problem, or I've reached my next rappel. Maybe I unstuck my rope, and now I want to go down. So I remove my 120 centimeter foot loop. I then take off my auto block, and I'm going to place that below, attached to my belay loop once again, and circle it back around my two brake strands. Make sure you do this before you flip your device back into standard descent mode. I check to make sure it's functioning. Again, I can always put a backup knot in the system here. I then unscrew the locking gate for the carabiner that is in my belay loop, pull that out, and to clean things up, I simply remove the locking carabiner that was through the ear of the ATC guide. Okay, I take out any backup knots that might have been in the system, and now I'm ready to descend. Release the friction hitch, and down I go.